All right. It's supposed to be going. All right. I think we could all agree with this. We have perceptions. Okay. And let's say we know we have perceptions. All right. And let's also say that we should forget about sense perceptions being known automatically as distinct from fantasia, from phantasmal perceptions, right? We don't start out knowing the difference, even in our lifetimes, let alone culturally. I'm talking about in ancient times, 60,000 years ago. But even in your own individual lifetime, even as an adult, you'll see the face in the cloud. You see it at the same time that you see the cloud itself. So the distinction is clear. We're talking about it, but it only becomes clear through analysis, perception analysis. All right. And a very important thing is that it follows statistical laws. Okay. I don't think you guys all know what that means, how important it is that it follows statistical laws. That means that it's not going to be certain, right? It's going to be it's going to be it's going to have fuzzy statistical boundaries involved in the definition of it. Nothing is for sure in or out of this set, and yet the set still has a volume where we know a lot of them, the things that should go in it based on the way it's defined. I think you'll get what I mean. Okay, spoiler. Sense perceptions are those which follow the laws of physics. But there's a problem with that. And the problem is that we don't start off knowing any laws of physics. Okay, that's why it's a spoiler. We don't start off with the laws of physics, so here's what we all do instead. We take our perceptions seriously. We database them. Okay? We put our perceptions in a database. This is why learning to write and read is helpful in this process in general. Okay, now, in searching for patterns, we find many. Okay, many patterns to connect items in the database. Okay, one type of pattern is the universal candidates. Now I'm a relativist, so I don't believe there is a true universal, but I do believe there are universal candidates. There's things that apply to the most items in the database. They apply to the widest set of items. Like, come up with all of your million theories and patterns. Which one applies to the widest set? You know, it could be something trivial like they exist in some sense. Okay. So you might want to say, well, no, there has to be a material consequence. There's all kinds of ways you refine your candidates, right? Well, physics is the branch of philosophy seeking such a pattern. Physics always has been the branch of philosophy, natural philosophy, seeking such a pattern that would describe, in some sense, everything, at least a little bit. It would apply. And that would make it something that at least you weren't supposed to, violate. So when we take all our perceptions, we derive a set of patterns which are not universal. Okay. Instead of universal, they're patterns that unify the largest possible set of perceptions at once, weighed by how much they matter to us, right? We can't help but weigh them that way. And yet, although they're weighed that way, they're not selected that way. Okay, they're not selected by how much they matter to us. If we hear a voice in our head there that seems to defy the laws of physics because we think we're doing something that doesn't seem physically possible, if that's what we think about it, it might matter a lot, but it wouldn't be physical, right? Because it doesn't fit this adherence to this broadest pattern. Okay, so because it's not perfect, this broadest pattern is actually a spectrum of suggestions, which in details contradict. Not all the suggestions are the same. Okay, and in that sense, it's like any human system of thinking, right? It has boundaries at which, it doesn't have a certain conclusion. However, when we finally had a robust system, say around the time of Newton, the volume of contradictions was much smaller than the volume of consistency. Again, you could say this about, the old Catholic Church in the beginning, because it had more agreement than it had disagreement on issues. It was possible for there to be a cohesion. So, and this is still true of science, the difference being, of course, the origin of the knowledge, right? The origin of the scientific knowledge is, well, look at your perceptions and see what is the broadest pattern you can find. It doesn't eliminate the applicability of other patterns, and since it's incomplete, if another pattern seems applicable and this broadest pattern can't incorporate it, then the broadest pattern probably has a problem, right? Yes. So that's the problem. The applicability is always to this subset of perceptions. It's a little circular, right? Perceptions that don't violate the pattern make up the set of things that the pattern is supposed to apply to. Well, no kidding. The pattern was invented and defined in terms of things that apply to the set, yet it still works. Why? Well, because over time, we don't always know, what the pattern's going to be. And in this process of oh, this fits, oh wait, that doesn't fit, oh, that's an anomaly, no, that's a fact, this is an anomaly, that process allows us to make progress on such systems. So it's not circular so much as cyclic. All right. So the pattern is known to be incomplete, and I drop a couple names there to hint you if you're wondering why I say is known to be. Okay. I didn't put Gödel first either. Hythloday. So, but this means it's also known that some facts which defy this broadest pattern are being excluded kind of from the process, right? Because the pattern's known to be incomplete. The pattern itself is used to help cull the set of facts being considered. So we know it's culling, since it's incomplete, imperfect, it's culling some facts that ought to be considered. All right? No problem for us, right? We just consider them in our other fields, right? In our other sciences or outside of science, in our poetry and arts, wherever. We can still address them, right? Without losing the power of this whole process and the power of this broadest pattern. Okay, so this power struggle between what matters, which I say is the base of the material and materialism, and what seems physical, right, I think is crucial. I think this is a distinction and difference a lot of people miss. They think materialism is physicalism and physicalism is materialism. And no, materialism is distinct if you define it the way I think we do, sort of subconsciously already define it in terms of what matters, and what's physical then is is another subset operation on what matters, right? Kind of what ought to matter. Okay. Okay. What did physics identify then as part of its suggestion of the broadest pattern? And because mind you, a lot of areas of interest, intellectual interest, don't claim to be universal or apply to everything, right? There's art historians that go about their business in a scientific way, and they don't say that it applies to everything. It applies to art history, right? Okay, but physics likes to apply to everything. So what has it found? Well, it identified space as applying to all situations. I buy that. It identified time as applying to all situations. Mathematics doesn't really deal with time the way physics does. Physics does a much better job of addressing time as we experience it, I think. And then with relativity, maybe it went into another weird kind of treatment that we don't experience. But anyway, physics identified that as one of the things applying to all situations, the broadest pattern. If a situation doesn't seem to have time applied to it, then you're just missing something, you're subtracting something. In reality, time did apply to it. And so on. There's mass and energy and fields, whatever fields are. Okay, so obviously there are a lot of patterns beyond that which apply to our real lives, beyond physical, distance and space and time and these things. And these I still call material. They're patterns meant to describe material facts. Okay, and physics is by design is a culling process, trying to get a finer and finer, more and more purity, right? So going to the store is a physical event, but we're still culling things from the broadest pattern kind of thing, right? So that incidental experience, we expect it to not contradict the laws of physics, but we also don't expect it to say a lot about the laws of physics. Though in fact, it of course could. So science in general, beyond physics, tries to explain other domains. So like psychology is science or whatever. Other domains without contradicting physics, though, mind you. Okay, but addressing them in the greater detail these other domains require. Now, so with material facts, I'm saying anything that is consistent enough to matter is nominally a material fact. If you hear a voice in your head, it could be very moving, right? If you hear it just once and never again, it's like, oh, isn't that funny? I mean, I think a lot of people have had that. It's easy to get over. It doesn't matter that much yet. If you hear it, every day, and it's harassing you, or even if it's not, okay, then it matters, and that nominally, I would call that a material fact. And by nominally, I mean it's an easy way into the set. There's a subjective method for a particular person. What is a material fact for them? Sort of nominally benefit of the doubt almost. All right. Now, nevertheless, anything that violates a law of physics is suspect. Okay, it's suspect, but as I was just saying, it's not completely suspect because maybe there's a physical cause, but it's not understood, right? When people would be visited by spirits, in the past we might go, oh, there's no physical explanation for that. Now the neurologists and psychologists would say, oh no, I beg to differ. I have a physical explanation, right? So when we're in that in-between period, when we don't know what the rainbow is, we're in a situation where it might violate the law of physics and is suspect, but so are the laws of physics. There's a balance there. Right? So I propose that this is a proper controversy, and the question is my law of physics requirement an automatic part of materialism? Okay, I think it's assumed in our conversations generally that it is, that materialism is the same as physicalism, as I think I said. But I disagree. Okay, I think materialism retains a grounding in our actual experience. Materialism allows, for example, for mystical experiences. Why? Well, because they matter. Okay? If it really undeniably matters to someone, now you could be pumping up the matter. You could be having a daydream that is worthy of, painting a picture over, and you pump it up and make it, it matters even more and more and more. That's all case by case personal judgment. But if it's honest to goodness, matters to you, even in that case, then it's material in this looser sense. And it's not loose. It's not like doesn't matter loose. It's that it does matter. These are the things that make emotional impact. I think it's good to have systems that can handle the issue of emotional impact. Okay, because it requires attention, and in that sense it's real. In the sense that all real things, it impacts you. Okay, that's how you tell if a rock, that's rolling down a mountainside about to crush you, you know, that's how you judge its reality, through its potential impact. Okay, but if it seems to defy physics, an individual taking this as a material fact is advised that it will likely not be material to another person. Right? Okay. All right. So in conclusion, I had a few typos, but whatever. I just wrote the slides once and then I made the thing. I might try this technique if it's not too much work, which means not proofing and reproofing everything. But anyway, to experience things that defy physics as you understand physics is a given. It ought to happen. Yeah, we ought to expect that. Everybody should admit it does happen, or else you think you know physics better than you do. Okay, and if they matter to you, for example, they're emotionally strong or moving, then knowing that they defy physics doesn't mean you crazy. It means they're personal. It means that things are personal. All right, that's what it means. Okay.